welcome to Getting Your Money's Worth, the show that focuses on value. I'm Judith West, and our guests this afternoon are Robert and Nancy Schulman, founders of Home, Family, and Future. So you guys are married and work together?
Yes.
That's a challenge.
It certainly is.
And I speak from experience. I may have to call you. So, tell me how you got your original mandate. Tell me how you got started, Nancy. You were focusing on domestic. I mean, how'd you get into this? You're a psychologist by training.
I'm a psychologist, yes.
And you are a banker, a financier by training.
Retired Wall Street executive.
You're a Wall Street guy. Okay. So, I guess you were the social worker in the crowd, and he was the banker. But what made you decide to start this with your lives?
Well, I'll try and be succinct, although that's not a strong point for me.
Try hard.
Okay, I'll try hard. Worked in government agencies my whole life, and would talk to Rob a lot about my frustrations in being able to help people just so far, and then not really being able to help enough to help them really change their lives. And he, having been on Wall Street, always said that he wanted to do something to help people. So fast forward that, and I'm looking to leave my position. I was director of clinical services at a residential treatment facility, and I had done some volunteer work. I had started a support group for domestic violence survivors at a shelter. And also I have someone in my family who was a survivor of domestic violence, and I firsthand came to see, what the experience is, especially for those women who fall between the cracks economically, those women who don't qualify for public assistance, but they don't earn enough to make it on their own.
Domestic violence cuts across all demographies.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All economic, racial, religious.
Okay. So you stepped in with the money?
Well, as my Wall Street career kind of wound down, I wanted to get more involved. So we built this domestic violence initiative, and
so tell me a little bit how I know I want to get to what you've morphed into with the kids, but so what was the structure? What was the focus of this domestic violence initiative?
We had an approach with women where we looked at the agencies, and the agencies were kind of broad brush. They were trying to do something for women who were victims of domestic violence and their children, but in many cases, because they were supported by the government, and everything is a function of public policy, that they couldn't really do enough to get somebody out of the hole. They couldn't evolve somebody to another level by investing enough in them to begin to get a return for the society.
Right.
It was our view that we'd focus on a small number of families, provide very extensive and widespread.
So you provide a home or something for them?
We provide a set of services, which can be rent subsidies, which can be counseling, which can be daycare.
And about how many people did you focus on in your group?
Well, we typically are working with 4 families.
Okay. And are you financing this with your own money? Or you started out that way?
We finance it in part with our own money, and we're a public charity. We raise money.
We raise money
for it as well.
Right, but you don't have government funding.
No. In fact, when we get government offers of money, we send it back.
Right. I don't blame you. Because that's exactly what you're trying to avoid, is all the bureaucracy.
Exactly.
Right. Okay, so you did that for a period of time, and then you've morphed now into. Is it into helping the youngsters of these domestic violence people you dealt with go to college? I mean, how did you morph into this, your latest initiative?
Well, at the same time that we were working on our domestic violence initiative, Rob and I were mentoring a young man from a residential treatment facility in Westchester County. And it was really through our experience with him. I mean, he is now he has completed college. He graduated from SUNY Binghamton. He graduated with a master's degree in special ed and education from Bank Street, and he's now a teacher in Harlem. And our experience with him led us to think that, gee, if we could do this with him as a partner, then maybe there were other kids in the foster care system who we could also help to complete a college education.
Foster kids get left behind when it comes to college.
Yeah, they totally.
There's a 2% graduation rate. That is the
Real
college graduation rate.
Yeah.
from kids from foster care. So you have a population, we know that there are more than 2% of kids coming out of foster care that have the intellectual capability of getting a college education. So we did the same thing. We said we're going to do enough for a kid in addition to what the state does. We're going to do enough for a kid so that instead of them applying to college, going to college, not being able to structure their work, not having any pocket money, not having a computer, not having the right clothes, not having travel expenses to come home. They come home for Thanksgiving and they never go back. I mean, that's the typical experience.
That's right.
I
just want to sum up your approach. Your approach is to really pull a tree out of the forest, or pull a few people out of this forest of need, and focus on them, and concentrate on getting somebody from point A to point Z, whatever point Z might be, with as little intervention, as little bureaucratic intervention as possible.
Yeah. Exactly, and in the case of children in foster care, we're stuck with the bureaucratic intervention, but we plan, it is our goal, and we think we're on track to do that, to graduate, have 50% of the kids that we take graduate, which is better than the national average of kids going to college.
Do you folks have children of your own?
Yes, we do.
Sure.
Yeah, how many children do you have?
We have 2 grown children.
And you're willing to do all this. It's like parenting all over again.
Yeah, but it's very exciting.
I can imagine it.
And we've recruited spectacular mentors, which is the key part of this program.
So let's go to that.
Is the mentoring part.
Yeah. So how do you recruit the mentors?
Through friends, through colleagues.
Are these mentors former students? Is there an age? Are they from a certain demographic?
No, and that's what's been interesting for us, is that we've learned when we started with this, we thought we would be looking at people more our age, people who were retired. But as it turns out, we've had a number of younger people in their 30s, some single, and they've been amazing mentors. And it is the single, I think, biggest piece for these kids to have that relationship. And what we do to try to enhance that relationship, because these are kids who have grown up not trusting any adults. So here's another person in their life wanting to know what's going on. We tie the money to the mentor. In other words, the mentor has control of the money.
Okay, so go slow. So you work out some kind of a stipend or some kind of a large sum for these kids from foster care, and the mentor is the one that distributes the money for
the agencies distribute the money, but the mentor control. We give the agencies money to distribute at the mentor's instruction.
Right.
And it's kind of a loop. Everybody is in the loop. They report to us.
So what do you have, a fixed sum of what you anticipate the cost to be, Robert?
It's actually not a fixed sum. We will work out a specific allowance for a kid. We will send the kid with the clothing that they need. We'll buy them.
Do they get choice? They get choice in picking out their clothing? And choice, choice of where they go to school?
We try to get them to feel a little bit like a college student rather than like an escaped convict getting out of foster care and going to an environment where they really can't take care of themselves.
What is foster care?
I'm going to let Nancy answer that one.
What is foster care?
Well, kids wind up in foster care when they can't live at home for a variety of reasons.
So is that a home, a couple, a man and a woman who decide to be surrogate parents?
It can be a number of different things. It can be that. It can also be institutions that provide foster care. And these kids will live in places with a bunch of other kids.
Those are residential treatment centers?
Residential treatment. But a residential treatment center doesn't mean there's something wrong with these kids, mentally or physically.
It
just means that that's their home. That's their temporary
they're not
home.
able to live at home for just a whole
So they really lack
reasons.
TLC, they lack, they lack someone saying, hey, you did good on this exam, I'm proud of you.
But we're also performance-based. If our kids don't stay in school, we throw them out. We don't tell their mentor not to be their mentor anymore, but we discontinue funds. So for the first time, we're saying to these kids something that foster care by its nature can't say. If foster care buys a kid a winter coat and he loses it on the subway, foster care is going to buy him another winter coat. Otherwise, he's going to be a blurb in the New York Post, and the agency is going to get bad publicity.
Right.
So there's no accountability. We're saying to them, we're an educationally based program. You stay in this program based on performance. If you want to get over on us, get over on us by graduating, and then laugh about all the money we gave you. But
so you're really teaching individual responsibility.
In the most
when you can.
direct
In most direct
sense.
Right.
Yes.
In that, and what we're really seeking is 4% unemployment in college graduates, and 2.5 times the earnings of somebody
Yes.
who has a high school equivalency diploma.
That is correct.
A burden on society in one case, and a contributor to society in another.
But the two of you, Mr. and Mrs. Schulman, you are both also, not only contributing your time and your expertise and your love and care, you are also using a nice sum of your own funds to do this too, correct?
We're the largest individual
You are the largest
contributor.
individual contributor to your initiatives.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. How did you learn so much? How did you learn how to do this?
She
guys
taught me.
must have. She taught
No,
you.
we just sort of, what happened was we just sort of started, you know,
I mean, I have to tell you, you know, there are a lot of parents, forget foster care, there's a lot of parents that could listen to you talk and practice some of these teaching of individual responsibility practices.
Well, our own kids have told us that we did a pretty good job with them.
Yeah.
So.
yeah.
Well, you are very lucky parents, I have to say.
And we recognize that we're lucky.
We are very lucky.
I think that most folks, I feel too, that they feel like the couches in psychologists' office are filled by kids complaining about their parents. But the whole issue of individual responsibility is something that kids don't learn very well, even whether they're in foster care or not.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's hard because the kids are not really in a consequential business. They don't really take the consequences of what they do. And I'm talking about all kids, our own kids and foster care kids and everyone else. There's an inflection point when they get to be a little older where if you finish college, you get one thing. And if you mess up and drop out, you get something else. And what we're really doing is holding them responsible for it, saying, we love you. We've had kids leave. Our last comment to a kid is, we desperately hope that you find a way to be successful. And we want to hear good news from you, or maybe even bad news. It's not that we don't like you, but this is a program about performance,
right.
And we want you to perform to save yourself. Because these kids have no other way of saving themselves.
And
Exactly.
helping them to learn how to advocate for themselves. You know, as I mentioned before, these kids don't trust adults. So they go off to college. It is not their inclination. If they're having a problem with a course, they don't think about going to the professor or going to their advisor. I mean, these are all things that our mentors help them learn how to do.
Right. Yeah,
And in many cases, our mentors are the first people that have ever tried to help them that weren't paid to do it.
Yeah.
And they're very aware of that. Maybe not on the first day, but they quickly become aware a year down the road that our mentors are there for the sake of being there.
Well, we're out of time. In fact, we're over time, but we'll work that. You guys do a lot. You guys do a lot to help, and this show is getting your money's worth. And I have to tell you, society is certainly indebted to the Schulmans, Robert and Nancy. Thanks for what you do, and thanks for being on the show.
Thank you for having us.
I'm Judith West. Thank you for watching Getting Your Money's Worth.